Well, folks, last night was night 3 of the Democratic National Convention. If you want all the real-time updates you could ever seek, you need Election Wire Live. It's every night during the DNC, 7:45 p.m. Central. God love them. They're there covering this bleep show. Here's the thing. You might be able to sense already. I am highly irritable today, not because of the state of the race, as we'll discuss in a moment. I'm really irritable because I don't like the sensation of the entire Democratic media human centipede peeing on my leg and then insisting that we all dance in the rain. We are being lied to. It is annoying. It is irritating beyond all reason. So stop telling me Kamala Harris is a wondrous politician and a symbol of hope and joy who dances and sings and cooks rather than what she is, a manipulative, chameleonic, corrupt careerist who shifts her positions and her person at whim and who will not answer a single damned question. Not one. We are now on day 33 of answering 0 questions. She's running for president of the United States. And we're supposed to believe that it's all about the vibes, man. It's all about how she really loves Venn diagrams and she's feeling, are you feeling the joy? Are you feeling the joy? Stop telling me Tim Walz, a good old boy, championship winning football coach, instead of what he is, a radical left-winger who caters to trans politics and lets BLM radicals burn down the major cities in Minnesota and calls socialism neighborliness and apparently visits China every 5 seconds. Stop lying to me. Also, he's a weird kook. Have you seen him? Stop telling me that Joe Biden is like George Washington. He's a man willing to sacrifice for the public good, when in reality, Joe Biden is the most corrupt politician of my lifetime. He used his public position to enrich his corrupt venal family for literally decades, since before I was born, and then he was stabbed in the back by his own party and sent to political hospice care just to get rid of him. And now you're saying that he's sacrificial, he's Cincinnatus or George Washington? Stop lying. Stop telling me that Barack Obama is a messianic do-gooder. He's a man descending from the clouds to bring truths from on high to all of us, rather than what he is, which is an ugly, manipulative, racially polarizing machine politician who's willing to claim the right to steal other people's money and spend it on his favorite people, and then divide America based on race, and then make off with hundreds of millions of dollars in book and TV contracts, all the time claiming capitalism is bad and America is unfree. Stop telling me that Michelle Obama is a charming figure of unity, one of the great lights of our age, when she is instead a radical racial leftist who attended America's top universities and is worth bank and complains about the evils of America from one of her 3 multi-million-dollar mansions she earned off the back of being married to Barack Obama, and then complains about the affirmative action of generational wealth while her daughters are worth trust fund $10 million apiece. Stop telling me Bill Clinton is a down-home back-country type when he's a Yale law grad who screwed every broad he could find, with or without consent, and stole half the White House on his way out. Stop telling me Hillary Clinton is a sacrificial public servant when she is a corrupt harridan who spent her entire career getting ahead, lying, living off her husband's checkered legacy, a legacy, by the way, she helped enshrine by threatening his victims. Stop telling me Doug Emhoff is America's dad-in-chief and Jewish liaison when he the nanny and got her pregnant and has done literally nothing Jewish his entire adult life while raising a daughter who donates to pro-Hamas groups, and then says he's more in touch with his Judaism because he attends church on Easter with Kamala Harris at some rainbow flag church. Give me a break. And most of all, stop telling me, truly, stop telling me that the Democrats' positions don't matter, that we should not listen to them. Stop telling me they haven't been in charge. Stop telling me that I'm supposed to pretend that they haven't been in charge for 12 out of the last 16 years of my life, and that their threats to rewrite the Constitution, to destroy the Supreme Court, their threats to destroy the filibuster, to confiscate the earned wealth of people who innovate, to spend endless amounts of money that they did not produce, to institute price controls, to inflate the currency, to nationalize healthcare, to cut the military, to the children, to abort anything that moves, to enshrine voting procedures that facilitate fraud, to open the border and amnesty everyone who enters. Stop telling me none of that matters. Stop it. Stop telling me that. Stop telling me that I should ignore that because Amanda Gorman, ooh, and Kenan Thompson, ooh, and Oprah Winfrey, and Lil Jon, turned down for what, is supposed to cover for the fact that this Democratic Party is off its political rocker, and John Legend, and Stevie Wonder, and Pink. Stop telling me that politics should be treated as a game show. It is not a game show. Politics is always and forever about what people do with power. It's not about joy or about vibes. It's not about being brat. It's about what the jack you elect do with power. That's the whole thing. It's not about if you, in some sad sack way, want Kamala to be your mamala, or Tim Walz to be your high school coach from Friday Night Lights, or you want Doug Emhoff to be your dad who f***ed the nanny. It's about whether you want these people to be in charge of the country, to set the rules for the economy, to set the rules internationally. That's the thing we should all be focused on. Well, folks, all of this is insane. It can be quite agitating. And sometimes the best way to calm down is with a nice candle of facts. You know, it might also help with your feelings. It's very important. See, behold the warm glow. Behold. Introducing my all-new Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings candle collection. Yes, this is a real thing. It's available right now from the Candle Club. You can go to thecandleclub.com right now and join for exclusive perks, including 20% off a founding membership, a free founder's box valued at $115, 20% off all candles, and exclusive access to members-only scents. These candles are free of toxic ingredients and woke ideology. Unlike the big brands out there, they are safe for the whole family. There are limited quantities of these exclusive member boxes, so get yours before they are gone. Head on over to thecandleclub.com today. Again, that's thecandleclub.com today. Now, I have to get back to being agitated. Hold up a second. Okay, now I'm just going to wait for this smoke to clear a little bit, and then we'll get back to talking about, okay, so it's cleared. Yeah, I'm back to being agitated now. Now, listen, maybe we're just unserious. Maybe we're unserious enough people, spoiled by the fact that we live in the richest time in American history, spoiled by the fact that we don't have to face down existential conflict. Maybe we're just unserious enough that's pretty much all politics is. It's now just a personal popularity contest. Fine, if that's the case, then we get what all failing republics deserve. But there are still many of us who have a stake in the future of the country and think the future of the country matters and think that policy matters and that what these people do with power absolutely matters. We're still worried about the future of our kids in this country. If you are, everything you're seeing at the DNC should be insulting. I mean, deeply, profoundly insulting, because it is. And if you don't feel insulted, it's because you're caught up in the stupidity yourself. And at that point, you know what? America gets what it deserves. All right, so here's the thing. Before I get to the actual DNC, which has just been, it's a roadshow production. It's like an off-Broadway production of a not very good Broadway show, but we're all supposed to stand and cheer because they're singing fight song, or they're bringing forth Katy Perry, or whoever they're bringing forth tonight. Who gives a flying? Okay, but here's the thing. There's some actual bad news for Kamala Harris. I know. We're not supposed to say it because we're all in celebrate Kamala time. I mean, sure, she has never done anything worthwhile her entire life. Literally her entire life, she has not done anything worthwhile. She was a short-lived DA before she started Willie Brown, who elevated her in California politics by getting her a job with the San Francisco DA. She promptly defenestrated her own boss and ran for that job. And then I know we're not supposed to talk about the fact that she was a terrible attorney general of California. She barely sneaked through a race with Steve Cooley because he blew it in the last days of the race. And then she was elected senator in California in a race that had no Republicans in it because they changed the rules. And then she failed in her first presidential nomination race because she's a terrible politician who actually is not particularly smart. And she fell apart upon impact. And then she was selected from the scrap heap of history because she was a black woman by Joe Biden. And then she was an awful vice president. But now we're supposed to believe that now is the time to celebrate Kamala for all of her lifelong achievements of failing up. No one in American political history has failed up quite like Kamala Harris has failed up. But there is some bad news in this celebratory moment for Kamala Harris. In fact, there are actually 4 pieces of quite bad news for Kamala Harris in this supposedly celebratory moment. Bad news number 1, she is not winning big. Now, with all of the media coverage of Kamala Harris, with the fact that, again, 33 days of no questions, none, zero, zip, zilch. The fact she has not defined any of her actual political positions. The fact she's a complete cipher. And the fact that the entire media have gone into spasms of orgasmic joy at the fact that Joe Biden is no longer the nominee. Even with all of that, she is barely leading nationally. Barely. According to the Real Clear Politics polling average, Kamala Harris is leading nationally by 1.5 points. That is well within any margin of error. The last several polls show her up anywhere from 3 to 4 points nationally. Again, that is not a massive lead. It isn't. I mean, she's barely breaking 48% in a lot of these polls. You would imagine with this kind of media coverage, she should be at like 54%, 55%. She is not. In the top battleground states, according to the Real Clear Politics polling average, she is within margin of error in Wisconsin. She's up by just 1. Basically, they're dead even in Pennsylvania. She's up a couple of points in Michigan. She's dead even in Arizona. She's behind in Nevada, North Carolina, and Georgia. Okay, every single one of those races is within 2 points, according to the Real Clear Politics polling average. So the bad news for Kamala is if you have a month of days in which the coverage is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, truly, at least Barack Obama had talent. She is a talentless hack, truly a talentless hack, spun into gold, like Rumpelstiltskin in the back room over here, spinning straw into gold. That's what media are doing. And yet, she is not pulling away. In fact, if you squint, you can see a slight pulling bump for Donald Trump in the last couple of days. And that's despite the fact that Trump has not run a particularly disciplined campaign over the course of the last few weeks. He is understaffed, he is underspending online, and still she is not pulling away. As Thomas Edsall of the New York Times writes, while Kamala Harris has pulled even with, if not ahead of Trump in recent polling, Republican attacks on her have yet to reach full intensity. The outcome remains very much up for grabs. Bruce Kane, Stanford political scientist, said Trump is more erratic, impulsive, and self-interested than your average candidate and is much bolder than most in testing the boundaries of what he can get away with. In insider lingo, he is the guy who likes to put his toes right up to the chalk line between legal and illegal activity. There's some evidence his bad traits are getting worse with old age. The more serious problem is the lowering of institution and political safeguards, but the real thing here is that they are afraid he might win. They are afraid that Trump might still win. So again, this race is not over. If you were to watch the media, the race is over already. There's no reason to even play the rest of the ballgame. And this could be a problem for Kamala Harris because, again, if there is a perception that she is going to win and win big, and the reality is that this race is dead even, that actually does not cut in her benefit. So that's bad piece of news, number one. It's a really not good piece of news for Kamala Harris. Again, they swapped out a dead candidate for a live candidate, and the race is pretty much a toss-up at this point. By pretty much every statistical analysis. If you look at Nate Silver's rundown right now, the presidential election forecast suggests right now that Kamala Harris is slightly up nationally. But if you're talking about the electoral college probability, Nate Silver basically has it at 50%. He says that Harris has like a 53% chance of being president. Trump has a 47% chance. Not particularly statistically significant, meaning that right now the race is a dead heat. That's bad piece of news number one. So here's the thing. If people perceive that she's running away with the race and she actually isn't, that is not to her benefit. But you know it's not to your benefit, continuing to use that same cell phone company. There's only one cell phone company that gives you free premium access to the media you actually care about. It's Pure Talk. This might be the best offer Pure Talk has ever come out with. Listen to this. When you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you'll get a free 1-year insider subscription to Daily Wire Plus. That is correct. Take advantage of unlimited talk, unlimited text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot on America's most dependable 5G network for just $35 a month. And you'll get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus. The Daily Wire Plus insider plan gets you access to our entire library of movies, series, and documentaries, including Lady Ballers, What is a Woman, Mr. Bertram, Run, Hide, Fight, and more. Plus, you'll get all our daily shows uncensored and ad-free. The only way you can get the special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Shapiro. I've been telling you to stop overpaying for your cell phone plan for a very long time. If you haven't yet made the switch over to Pure Talk, now would be the time. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro today, switch to a qualifying plan, get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Again, that's puretalk.com/Shapiro today. Bad piece of news number two. So it now appears that RFK Jr. is about to drop out of the race in favor of Donald Trump. This is being reported by Mediaite. RFK Jr. is preparing to end his 2024 campaign and endorse Trump for president, sources have told Mediaite. According to Mediaite this week, a series of signs began to point to the end of his quixotic independent bid for the presidency, which fared surprisingly well in the polls and threatened to siphon support from both Trump and Kamala Harris, though most saw the campaign as a particularly acute threat to the Republican ticket. Campaign manager Amaryllis Kennedy addressed the chatter in an email to campaign staff. She said any path forward changes the outcome. With calcified support on both sides of the aisle, this 10% of the electorate is the only molten force in the race. She said, what I can tell you is this, Bobby has been in a period of deep discernment, so please hold tight until you hear directly from him. He is supposed to give a big announcement on Friday. He is in the same location as Donald Trump. Again, speculation is that RFK Jr. drops out of the race. Now, again, if you look at that Real Clear Politics polling average, what you see is that the share of the vote for Bobby Kennedy has dropped fairly significantly over the course of the last few weeks. It went from somewhere like 12% to somewhere in the 4 to 5% range. 4 to 5% is still a lot of points in a very, very tight race. According to Amy Walter, who is the editor-in-chief of Cook Political Report, which does poll analysis, she says this would be a big boost for Trump. In Cook Political Swing State Project survey, RFK voters in swing states are more likely to be Trump voters, 46%, than Harris voters, 26%. She says that 1 to 2 point boost in a 1 to 2 point race is a pretty big deal. Okay, so that is bad news for Kamala Harris as well if RFK drops out and if he endorses Trump and then if he moves over to the Trump campaign and starts actively campaigning against Kamala Harris. Here was Donald Trump yesterday praising RFK Jr. And it is the way of Donald Trump. He praises his friends and he rips his foes. So this may be a telegraph.
Have you spoken to him in the last 24 hours?
No, I haven't. I haven't, but I respect him. I've respected him for a long time. I mean, I know where he's coming from, and it's a little different philosophy. Very smart guy, however, and I had heard he was thinking about it for a period of time, but no, I have not heard this, what you're telling me.
He's going to be in Arizona on Friday. Would you have him on stage with you at your rally?
Well, I think I'm going to be there on Friday. We have a big crowd. I would always be honored to. I mean, if he endorsed me, would I be honored by that? Absolutely.
So that is a bad piece of news for Kamala Harris. Bad piece of news number one, very tight race. Bad piece of news number two, the biggest third-party candidate in the race seems about to drop out and endorse Trump. That's a bad piece of news for her. Bad piece of news number three. Remember that time that we were all supposed to pretend that the economy was soaring and doing amazingly well? It is amazing how fast the media expect you to change your mind just to back whoever the Democratic candidate is. So when Joe Biden was the candidate, you were all delusional. The economy was doing amazeballs. It was just great. Then Kamala Harris became the candidate, and the economy is still amazeballs, but it can be even better with Kamala Harris, even though she's out there admitting how bad the inflation is. Well, now, the U.S. job market has been reduced down significantly. According to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. job market was much weaker than previously reported. The job market from early 2023 through early this year was not nearly as hot as it seemed at the time, according to new government data suggested on Wednesday. Compared with the still official numbers, employers might have added 818,000 fewer jobs in the 12 months through March, according to the Labor Department. That means the economy could have added around 178,000 jobs a month over that period, as opposed to the current estimate of 246,000 jobs a month. Wednesday's report marked the first step of an annual process by which the Labor Department updates older payroll figures using state-by-state unemployment tax records that is more comprehensive, but less timely than its monthly employer survey. That is a preliminary estimate or revision that will be made to the official numbers in February. That is a major downgrade to the perception of the employment market. Now, this is also breaking in advance of the Federal Reserve preparing to lower the interest rates. The idea here would be that the economy has slowed significantly more than was previously perceived, and that means that they really need to blow more money into an economy that is currently running about 2.9% year-on-year inflation, which is still significantly higher than the 2% that the Federal Reserve typically seeks. Okay, this is not good economic news for Kamala Harris. And remember, Kamalanomics is way worse than Bidenomics. Kamalanomics is all the worst excesses of Bidenomics, but way more so. So we're talking price controls. We are talking, apparently, about taxes on unearned capital gains. By the way, if you get unearned capital gains taxes, do I get to take unearned capital gains tax write-offs if the value of my company goes down? Or if my stocks go down? How exactly does that work? And why would that not incentivize me to run my business directly in the ground to take the tax write-off and then prorate that over the course of the next few years? Absolute idiocy, economically speaking. But of course, that's the name of the game in Kamala land. Donald Trump says they were hiding the numbers. They were lying about the economy. Here he was yesterday.
The Harris-Biden administration has been caught fraudulently manipulating job statistics to hide the true extent of the economic ruin that they've inflicted on America. The new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the administration padded the numbers with an extra, listen to this one, 818,000 jobs that don't exist. So they said they existed, and they never did exist. They built them up so that they could say what a wonderful job they're doing.
He ain't wrong. In yesterday's most hilarious clip, Gina Raimondo, who's the Secretary of Commerce under Joe Biden, and an ally, of course, of Kamala Harris, she was asked about the jobs numbers being revised radically down. Remember, she's the Secretary of Commerce. She's sitting in the cabinet, Pretty much the only stat the Commerce Department looks at is supposedly the stat from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here was Gina Raimondo not knowing her own job.
Do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No, when I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, she's not familiar with that. Well, that's literally your job. Literally your job. So, is that a piece of good news for Kamala Harris? I doubt it. So that's bad piece of news. Number 3 is that the Bidenomics has failed, and Kamalanomics is likely to be significantly worse. I mean, she wants to, by the way, revoke the Trump tax cuts, which means increasing taxes on 91% of Americans. Okay, bad piece of news, number 4, is that Kamala Harris's immigration border czarring has been an abject failure on every possible level, unless you actually think that the purpose of the Democratic Party's immigration policy is to actually import millions of people and then give them an amnesty, which kind of seems like it is. So Kamala Harris has completely botched the border, but you know what, when it comes to your home, you don't want to botch the blinds. Let's be real. How light flows into your house is a big thing, and this is why you need the help of the folks over at Blinds.com. If you got big plans for Labor Day weekend, let Blinds.com handle the heavy lifting for you. Blinds.com's Labor Day mega sale is almost here. You can save right now on their best-selling window treatments during their spectacular Labor Day early access sale. I love Blinds.com. They've made my house look way better. They invented the better way to online shop for energy-saving blinds, shutters, motorized options, even cooling outdoor shades. No more salespeople in your home or multiple trips to the store in the summer heat. Blinds.com has free design experts that can help make a minor project like updating your window treatments have a major impact on your home's decor while keeping things easy and affordable. They'll even send you free samples. Plus, you can get unlimited window treatments installed for one low cost. And as always, you can rest easy with the Blinds.com 100% satisfaction guarantee. We at the Shapiro household got our blinds from Blinds.com to help keep us cool throughout those hot summer months in Florida. Buying premium window treatments at Blinds.com saves you time, it saves you money, and it's really convenient. Join Blinds.com and their 2.5 million customers with over 25 million windows covered. Shop Blinds.com's Labor Day early access sale. It's happening right now. Save up to 45% for a limited time. That's up to 45% off at Blinds.com's Labor Day early access sale right now. Rules and restrictions may apply. How bad is the Biden-Harris border policy? According to the New York Post, the Biden-Harris administration has lost track of more than 320,000 migrant children who crossed the border without their parents. Untold numbers of the children who were released into the U.S. to qualified sponsors, which just means any adult pretty much, are now at risk of sex trafficking, forced labor, and other forms of exploitation, according to a Homeland Security Inspector General's report released on Monday. As of May 2024, there are 291,000 migrant children who arrived in the U.S. as unaccompanied minors who were set free and never given a date to appear in immigration court, meaning there is no way to track their whereabouts. That is in addition to the 32,000 children ICE authorities released into the U.S. with hearing dates, but who failed to show in court. One federal whistleblower said she believes many of these vulnerable kids could already be in the hands of criminals and sex traffickers. In fact, by the way, this is one of the ways that criminals cross the border. What they do is they bring a kid. The kid is then released into the interior of the United States to some other adult. And then the adult is processed and released as well. And then the kid, in some cases, I was told this by Border Patrol, is shuttled back across the border to be used as another quasi-mule for the adult. That is in some of these cases. In some of these cases, the kid is just put into some form of labor, slavery, or whatever. This is insane. You want to talk about a human rights violation? You want to talk about a human rights violation at scale by the Biden administration? Releasing 320,000 minors into the United States with no adult supervision from a family member is patently crazy. I have 4 kids. If one of them got lost and ended up in the hands of sex traffickers, I would be in jail, and rightly so. The federal government, however, can release 320,000 children under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris into the interior of the United States with no familial relations. And that apparently is totally, that's being humane. That is apparently being absolutely wonderfully humane. Insane. Again, according to Tara Rodas, who was recruited as a federal government employee to help the Department of Health and Human Services with an influx of migrant kids in 2021, believing she would be doing noble work, she said that she was shocked to find she was handing children to, quote, traffickers, members of transnational criminal organizations, bad actors, bad people. Sponsors do not have to be family members. Their vetting process does not require that they meet with the HHS officials in person. The vetting is typically done over the phone. The vetting was stripped out of the process. Well done, Kamala Harris. Borders are Kamala Harris. Now, Democrats are trying to respin this one. They're trying to pretend that everything is just fine. So, for example, Senator Chris Murphy last night from Connecticut over at the DNC, he said that Kamala Harris is tough as nails on the border. I have yet to hear a lie bigger than this one.
For 20 years, Kamala Harris has been tough as nails when it comes to securing our border.
That is the biggest lie that you could possibly tell about Kamala Harris's border policy. When she was a federal senator, she was very much against federal law that would have shut down sanctuary cities. Kamala Harris has always been an open borders advocate. This notion that she is some sort of hard right, closed borders advocate is nonsense. It is sheer provable nonsense. But that is fail number 4 for her. So she has 4 big pieces of bad news. She hasn't finished off Trump. RFK is likely to endorse Trump. Kamalanomics is a giant fail, and Kamala Harris's immigration policy is a giant fail. And it turns out that Americans who still care about policy might care about their pocketbook and might care about the vast influx of at least 10 million illegal immigrants over the course of the Biden administration, a policy that Kamala Harris would double down upon. So what is the reality of the Democratic pitch? And the reality of the Democratic pitch, I think, was put forward quite nicely by 2 figures in the Democratic Party. One of them was Spike Lee. So again, the celebrities are well represented at the DNC because it basically is just a celebrity confab with some politics attached. Here was Spike Lee. The reason you should elect Kamala Harris is because she has lady parts.
What does it mean for you to be here to see Vice President Harris as the Democratic nominee?
I wanted to be here. This is not history. This is her story.
Oh my God.
She's going to be the first woman to be president of this United States of America. Blended family, the whole Howard University, HU, so this is a amazing moment in the history of these United States of America.
Wow, it's HERstory. See, you're not supposed to pay any attention to her policy. She has lady parts. By the way, what is a woman? They can't answer the question. So that's piece number 1. Her personal story is the only thing that matters because this is the dating game. And you're supposed to date your politicians. You're not supposed to ask ever what they would do. Because if you do ask what they would do, you might find out. And this brings us to piece number 2. The Democrats must lie. They must lie. They must pretend to be a thing they are not, which is moderate. They must do it. Here was DNC Speaker Reverend Mark Thompson saying the quiet part out loud at one of these breakout caucuses. This would be the Black Caucus, where Mark Thompson says, guys, we're really, really radical, but if we can hide it for the next 70 days, we can get away with it.
We got 70 days to act right, y'all.
That's right.
Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy.
70 days to act right. Everybody's laughing. 70 days to act right. If you can just lie for 70 more days, then you'll get away with it. I mean, they're saying the quiet part out loud, that they can keep it hemmed in for just a little while longer, and then they can be as crazy as they want to be. Well, the IRS is not keeping it hemmed in. Here's the thing. They want your money. If you're struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns, they're coming after you. Handling this alone can be a huge mistake and cost you thousands of dollars. In these challenging times, your best offense is with Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved clients millions in back taxes. Regardless the size of your tax issue, their expertise will work to your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities like garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, or if you're just missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then they'll create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. The IRS is the largest collection agency on planet Earth. Now that tax season is over, collection season has begun. Tax Network USA can even help with state tax issues. For a complimentary consultation, call today at 1-800-958-1000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Shapiro. That's 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro today. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. So, in reality, this is a deeply, deeply radical party. This party is more radical than any Democratic Party in American history. By far, it is not close. But they're going to simply drown the bad taste of the poison with a bunch of NutraSweet. And so that means celebrity time at the DNC. This brings us to night 3 of the DNC. Night 3 of the DNC was a bunch of career liars: Nancy Pelosi, Pete Buttigieg, Bill Clinton, and of course, Tim Walz, who is the most fake politician in modern American politics. I didn't know the guy 4 weeks ago. No one knew the guy 4 weeks ago. And he has caught on like a bad case of gonorrhea. That dude will not go away. He is highly irritating, and there's no immunity to it. He is going to rot the brain My goodness, Tim Walz. Just awful. Just awful. Okay, but they drizzle on top of this the syrup of celebrity. So they brought forth, for example, Amanda Gorman, the worst poet in America. She is awful. She's an awful poet. I know we're all supposed to pretend that she's actually good at poetry. She is not good at poetry. She's like if Shel Silverstein were clobbered by a 2x4 after being run over by a truck. That is what her poetry sounds like. Just awful, trite, stupid trash. Okay, I'm sorry she's bad at her job, not my fault, and it's your fault for having bad taste if you disagree. Sorry. That's what the facts say. Here was Amanda Gorman trying to recite poetry about Kamala Harris last night. My goodness.
We gather at this hallowed place because we believe in the American dream. We face a race that tests if this country we cherish shall perish from the earth, and if our earth shall perish from this country.
What the hell does that mean? If our earth shall perish from this country? What does that even mean? That has no meaning. Also, she's so astonished by her own ability to rhyme. Wow. Did you hear? Cherish and perish. Wow. Well, you know, her outfit is garish. The economy is bearish. So I suppose that we're supposed to vote for Kamala Harris because her poetry is nightmarish. Ooh, make me the poet laureate. These people are... If I roll my eyes any harder, they will fall out of my gourd. Well, if that wasn't good enough for you, they also brought out Kenan Thompson, who you'll remember from such wonderful shows as Nickelodeon and also SNL, right? He was on Nick at Night, right? Well, what was the name of that show? The one with the kids? Yeah, all that. Yeah, he's all that. Kenan Thompson will always be all that to me from Nickelodeon. And then he went to SNL. And now he shows up carrying around their prop. Again, they're like Gallagher with the watermelon. They just can't let go of this prop. They got this giant Project 2025 book that nobody's ever published in that size, that they actually had made, I assume, for this convention. And then they're just like toting this stupid thing around. Like, hey, look, a giant book. It's great. I hate this thing. It's a book. It's bad. And it's filled with bad ideas that are bad because it's a book. Oh, my God. Kenan Thompson, tell us about your mastery of the subject matter of Project 2025.
This is Project 2025, the Republican blueprint for a second Trump term. It is boo. It is a real document that you can read for yourself at KamalaHarris.com.
You can't read her policy agenda there.
Project 2025.
It doesn't exist.
You ever seen a document that could kill a small animal and democracy at the same time?
I mean, yeah, it's called the Federal Regulatory Books every year.
You know how when you download an app and there are hundreds of pages there that you don't read, it's just the terms and conditions, and you just click agree, right? Well, these are the terms and conditions of a second Trump presidency. You vote for him, you vote for all of this. Let's take a look.
How many times are they going to slam this thing on the podium? Can the podium take it? Who knows? It's just... Wow. By the way, Kamala Harris has no policy positions, so she just lies about them. The only policy positions available at KamalaHarris.com are Project 2025, which Trump legitimately has dissociated from so much so that Project 2025's head was basically defenestrated at the Heritage Foundation. So yeah, that is their pitch. But don't worry, they brought out the celebrity of all celebrities last night. They're going deep into the well for this one, straight from her mansion on Maui, where she owns the entire town of Hana. The woman of the people, Oprah Winfrey, was brought forth. Another black woman that the Democrats wish were the nominee. They had Michelle Obama. Now they have Oprah Winfrey. And they're kind of, tonight they're going to get Kamala Harris. She's there and she was vice president. All right, I suppose. So they brought out Oprah Winfrey. We'll get to Oprah's inspiring rhetoric in just one moment. First, your reminder, if you've already been to miracist.com and purchased your tickets for opening weekend, September 13th, we thank you. We're also getting messages from people saying their local theater isn't yet showing Am I Racist? Well, here's how to fix that. Every single ticket sold right now in theaters already carrying the movie helps push it into more theaters across the country because the chains see it and they say, oh, more people want to see the movie. Matt Walsh, the same group of white guys who absolutely dismantled leftist gender theory in What is Woman, they're back. This time they are taking on the weird world of DEI. What Matt has uncovered is both laugh out loud funny and downright enraging. And let me just tell you, Matt is willing to go anywhere. I don't know if you spotted Matt like hanging around in his outfit from Am I Racist at the DNC in the background of CNN shots. It's pretty good stuff. The response to this movie has been phenomenal so far. We cannot afford to slow down. If you've got Am I Racist playing at a theater near you, please head on over to miracist.com. Buy your advance tickets today. This is how we get this movie into as many theaters across America as possible. Okay, meanwhile, well, it wasn't just Amanda Gorman, the world's worst poet, or Kenan Thompson, straight from all that. It was Oprah Winfrey. Yes, she descended in her private jet from Maui, where, again, she owns half the island, to talk about the fate of the peoples of Earth. That was the important thing. So Oprah, she was there to pour syrup on the absolute cyanide that is the Democratic Party platform, and she talked about worshiping. Here was Oprah Winfrey. Why? Just why? This is my question, why? Okay, I'm irritated by all the celebrity crap on both sides of the aisle. I really am. I've hated the State of the Union for years because I find it to be a worshipful spectacle of tyrannical demagoguery. And that's what I'm seeing here. I'm sorry. I don't give a what Oprah Winfrey thinks about politics. Why should I? Seriously, why should I? This woman is so much of an expert on politics that back in 1988, she wrote a literal letter to Donald Trump asking him to run for office. And now she's back here talking about how he's a threat to democracy and all this kind of stuff. I just, what qualifies her to say anything about policy other than the stuff that she knows? And she doesn't know anything, and she doesn't care about knowing anything. And none of these people care about knowing anything. Wait till she finds out that they want to tax her unachieved capital gains. Wait until she finds out about that. But here she was last night telling us all for the feels and the emotions. Oh, do you have the feels?
There are people who want you to see our country as a nation of us against them. People who want to scare you, who want to rule you, people who'd have you believe that books are dangerous.
God.
And assault rifles are safe. That there's a right way to worship and a wrong way to love.
A white way to worship?
People who
What is that?
seek first to divide and then to conquer.
This is such, the fields of straw men burning out to the horizon are astonishing here. Just there are people who want to rule you. Did you know that? Yes, I watched them at the DNC last night. Basically, the Democratic bargain is we get to rule every single aspect of your life. You have to stay in your home because of COVID. You have to wear a mask. We're going to rule every aspect of your economic interactions with the world, whether or not they affect anybody else. We get to decide whether your kids are trans. You have no say in any of that stuff, but you do get to screw as much as you want. That's the Democratic bargain. We will never, ever cast a weary eye at your sexual antics. That's the promise. Now, again, I don't much care what you do in the privacy of your bedroom. I really don't. I do on like a religious level, but on a governmental level, I really don't care. But Democrats' entire shtick here is that Republicans are like spying through the keyhole at what you do in your bedroom. In exchange for us not spying at the keyhole, you must turn over control of every other aspect of your life. That's the bargain here. I mean, that really is all the Democrats are offering. They want to control your health care. They want to control your business. They want to control your children. They want to control how your children are educated. You hear Oprah Winfrey right there saying, well, they fear books. Do they fear books, or do they just not want fifth graders to be reading genderqueer at the school library? Like, maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. But they're just such liars. They're such liars. Such liars. Oh, my God. And by the way, I will point out, the one thing she says, there is, in fact, a right way to worship and a wrong way to worship. The wrong way to worship is where you have abortions in the parking lot. That's the wrong way to worship. If you're doing that and then worshiping, let me suggest you're doing it wrong. You're doing religion and God wrong. Okay, here is Oprah Winfrey, and then talking about abortion, which is the only real democratic sacrament, like a full-scale democratic sacrament.
If you do not have autonomy over this, if you cannot control when and how you choose to bring your children into this world and how they are raised and supported, there is no American dream.
What? Okay, so can we just cut through the euphemism right there? What Oprah is saying? If you don't get to choose how your children come into the world, it's not about how, it's about whether. I mean, that's pretty evil. By the way, I love how she's like, oh yeah, and then you get to raise your kids. Do we though? Because I feel like you and all your friends suggest that if I don't go along with your trash gender ideology, if I'm not willing to my kid at the behest of your insane radicalism, then you would remove my kid from my home. That's exactly what Minnesota proposes, by the way, under Tim Walz, who spoke last night. But don't worry, she's a celebrity, and we love celebrities here in America. And then she talked about how she's a victim, Oprah Winfrey, which is weird because, you know, if her story means anything, it means that you are able to overcome such unbelievable obstacles in the United States. You can become the richest woman on planet Earth. But apparently, no, America's still real bad.
From the redwood forest, love those redwoods, to the Gulf Stream waters, I've seen racism and sexism and income inequality and division. I've not only seen it, at times, I've been on the receiving end of it.
Everyone's a victim in Democrat land, including the richest people on planet Earth. Michelle, Barack Obama, they're all victims. All victims. And of course, Oprah could not conclude without a reference to childless cat ladies because, you know, there was that one time J.D. Vance went on Tucker Carlson's show in 2021. That's the real threat to America.
They are the best of America. And despite what some would have you think, we are not so different from our neighbors. When a house is on fire, we don't ask about the homeowner's race or religion. We don't wonder who their partner is or how they voted. No, we just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady.
Well, she said a buzzword. Everybody cheer.
Well, we try to get that cat out too.
Wow. Deep words. Deep words. You mean when there's a fire, you try to save the people inside? That's great. But I don't think that that's what this election is about. By the way, I'm not going to take sitting down this entire Democratic nostrum that they care about every American as an individual when literally the entire Kamala Harris campaign has been broken up by race, gender, and sexual orientation. White gay dudes for Harris. Black women for Harris. Spare me. Spare me. Okay, we didn't even get to the politicians yet. So then they started trotting out the politicians. Of course, they trotted out the radicals like the Planned Parenthood president, because again, the high priestess of the Democratic Party is, of course, Alexis McGill Johnson, who is the chief of Planned Parenthood, and who suggested that their future, women, your future and your bodies are on the line. And the deep and abiding love that Democrats have for abortion, it's unsurpassed. It's literally the thing they care about most, which is kind of telling and kind of frightening.
Our future is on the ballot. Our bodies are on the ballot. And come November 5th, we will decide this election.
Oh, boy. Then they trotted out Nancy Pelosi to gaslight you some more. So Nancy Pelosi explained how Democrats saved democracy by stabbing Joe Biden directly in the face and then shoving his body off the back of the boat to the sharks.
Let us not forget who assaulted democracy on January 6th. He did.
Don't worry, they're a party of love.
But let us not forget who saved democracy that day. We did.
Who's we, lady? Mike Pence was the vice president of the United States who presided over the Senate. Mitch McConnell was the Senate majority leader who presided over the certification of the vote. It was Republican secretaries of state in places like Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania who presided over a lot of this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't you. You had nothing to do with it. You were actually solely responsible for the failures of much of the Capitol Police at the time. So there's that as well. Then they trotted out Pete Buttigieg, who is only on the main stage because he's, again, it is truly incredible how far you can go by being a poor mayor of a minor city in the United States, but also loving dudes. Like it speaks to the beauty of America, the rich tapestry that is America. So Pete Buttigieg showed up to slam J.D. Vance. Here he was going after J.D.
J.D. Vance is one of those guys who thinks if you don't live the life that he has in mind for you, then you don't count. Someone who said that if you don't have kids, you have, quote, no physical commitment to the future of this country. You know, Senator, when I deployed to Afghanistan, I didn't have kids then. Many of the men and women who went outside the wire with me didn't have kids either. But let me tell you, our commitment to the future of this country was pretty damn physical.
Well, if all of this is making you nauseous, you might need relief band. See, whether you're a frequent flyer or somebody embarking on their first flight, the effects of motion sickness can catch you off guard and quickly ruin your travel plans, especially when you could have just been prepared with my friends over at Relief Band. Relief Band is a one-of-a-kind wearable device that both prevents and treats nausea using patented technology. It's not every day you're on an airplane and you get sick. Relief Band treats more than that. For example, the sick kid in the backseat. This has happened. Parents suffering from motion sickness at the amusement park. Chemotherapy patients, and a lot more. It's better to have a relief band and not need it than need it and not have it. So join the hundreds of thousands of customers who have experienced life-changing relief with Relief Band. Right now, I've got an exclusive limited time offer just for my listeners. Visit reliefband.com, use promo code Shapiro. You'll receive 25% off plus free shipping. That's RELIEFBAND.com. Use promo code Shapiro, reliefband.com. Promo code Shapiro. These things are really, really effective. In fact, I got one for my sister. She suffers from motion sickness. She has been using it. It's great. Check it out right now. Reliefband.com. Use promo code Shapiro. You'll receive 25% off plus free shipping. That's reliefband.com. Use promo code Shapiro. And then we got to the main speeches. Okay, the main speeches. Bill Clinton showed up. I mean, let's be real about this. That is a dude who really likes the ladies, whether they like him or not. And yet he's been hanging around the precincts of Jeffrey Epstein Island in the center of Democratic power for quite a while. Not only that, but politically, he's awkward as well, because it turns out that when he was president of the United States, he was seeking that Clintonian third way. He was famously co-opting Republican positions and then using them as his own. Now, Kamala Harris is doing a little bit of that with things like stealing Trump's idea about no tax on tips and all the rest of this sort of stuff. But Bill Clinton is awkward because Bill Clinton was kind of a blue dog Democrat. Ain't no more blue dog Democrats, they're endangered. Also, again, Bill Clinton is like page A1 of the manual for Me Too. And yet there he was showing up last night. So Bill Clinton showed up. He looks really old. But the nice thing is, because they defenestrated Joe Biden, he now gets to make old people jokes. He gets to talk about how he is younger than Donald Trump. This is a joke he couldn't have made 5 minutes ago when Joe Biden was the actual nominee. But just remember, Joe Biden has already been killed and put off his body somewhere in California, hanging out at the beach on the other coast or something. So Bill Clinton did what I will maintain this continues to be the funniest thing at the DNC. The funniest thing at the DNC is all these people who participated in the ravenous cannibalism against Joe Biden, turning around and then proclaiming him a hero. It is just wonderful. It really is. There's an ironic deliciousness to the whole procedure. Like they found the fattest guy on the lifeboat, they carved him up and they ate him, and then they praised him for his self-sacrifice. It's just amazing. Here's Bill Clinton declaring Joe Biden, George Washington, and Cincinnatus all wrapped into one. Meanwhile, at least wipe the blood off your shirt first, my dude.
We were in the middle of a pandemic and an economic crash. He healed our sick and put the rest of us back to work.
He healed our sick? Joe Biden healed our sick? He can't heal his own sick.
He strengthened our alliances.
No, he didn't.
Peace and security. He stood up for Ukraine. He's trying desperately to get a ceasefire in the Middle East.
By pressuring the ally.
Then he did something that's really hard for a politician to do. He voluntarily gave up political power.
Now, he didn't. That's the thing. He didn't give up political power. He's still the president of the United States. If he'd walked away from the presidency, that's called political power. A presidential nomination is the prospect of future political power. He didn't give that up. You guys put him in the wood chipper, Fargo style. And you're like, he gave up political power. Ugh. Bill Clinton. Okay, then he moved on to Kamala Harris. And he talked about the magic of Kamala Harris. Now, one of the most amusing things also about this convention is that Kamala Harris's career apparently ended when she was a state-level prosecutor. We never hear anything about what she did when she was senator, and we never hear about her vice presidency, ever, at all, because she's a terrible senator, and she's an awful vice president, the worst vice president in American history. So we never hear about that. Like, her career apparently was, she was at McDonald's, and then she was a hard-charging prosecutor. That's what we know about Kamala Harris. Oh, yeah, and she had a wonderful romance with the dude who stooped the nanny. Those are the things we know, and she loves to cook and dance, and is filled with joy. These are things we know, so much joy. So here was Bill Clinton talking about how Kamala Harris once worked at McDonald's. Well, whoop-de, congratulations.
When she was young, she worked at McDonald's. And she greeted every person with that 1,000-watt smile and said, how can I help you?
1,000-watt smile? How can I help you?
She's at the pinnacle of power, and she's still asking, how can I help you?
And she's still asking, would you like fries with that? Oh, it's so tiresome. Kamala Harris, woman of the people, Literally the only job she has ever worked in the private sector is that one time she worked at McDonald's for 5 minutes. Congratulations. Wow. If you elect her for this, you're a stupid person. Don't know what to tell you. You're a dummy. Well, Bill Clinton was a racist last night. He's a little racist. I know, because he pronounced Kamala wrong. You're not allowed to pronounce it Kamala. You're not allowed to pronounce it Kamala. You're not allowed to pronounce it Kamala. It's Kamala. And if you don't, you hate black people or something. So apparently Bill Clinton hates the black people because he did it twice last night.
Ask for their help and then follow our leader, Kamala.
Oh, Kamala. I thought racist. So after they shuffled off that old man off the stage, that's when they brought out the fakest person in America, Tim Walz. Now, there was one genuine moment, and that's when his son was in the audience. Apparently he has an anxiety disorder, and he's got ADHD, and he's got some possible autism, something like that. And he started crying and pointing at the stage and saying, "That's my dad," which is a nice thing. I mean, you like to see when kids are really loyal to their parents. I like that. Otherwise, Tim Walz is an awful communist. So Tim Walz, it's amazing. He's a pathological liar. He's spent his entire career being a liar, but he has what Axios calls an aw shucks force field. Again, that human centipede working overtime. The excretions are massive, and so is the intake. So according to Axios, Democrats are banking on Governor Walz's affable, everyman personality to shield against GOP attacks and even blowback about his own mistruths and exaggeration. Affable, authentic, that is Tim Walz. By affable and authentic, this is the part that I hate. Okay? I cannot stand it when someone gives a truly awful performance in a movie and everybody's like, that person was great. Can't deal with it. Makes me insane. Tim Walz is a bad actor. He's bad at this. Okay, he walks out and he's waving his arms like a crazy person. As I've said before, every time he enters a stage, he's like Chris Farley from 1996 on Letterman. Like runs out there, he's waving his arms all crazy, and this, and this, and this. And it's all just way too much. It's way too much. He's chewing the scenery like Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. I mean, he's like all over the damn place. Tim Walz is a radical. His curriculum in Minnesota, as governor, they adopted an ethnic studies curriculum for all students in which kids are taught about racial capitalism and how minorities suffer under European beauty standards. Also, he traveled 30 times to China and praised Chinese communism as a system where everyone shares. And if you thought that was just a long time ago, like 8 weeks ago, he said on a call that socialism is just neighborliness. So that wasn't even 8 weeks ago, it was like 3 weeks ago. And we're all supposed to pretend that he's just, he's a nice every dad. That's his thing. He's an every dad. He's so great. Now, Tim Walz, who is up in everybody's biznatch on like every level. Again, there's only one area where Tim Walz is not up in your biznatch, apparently, and that, of course, is when it comes to who you have sex with. Now, again, this is a straw man. No one cares who you, as a consenting adult, have sex with. People might care religiously. They might think that you're sinning. I'm unaware of any major politician in America who is called for making illegal sexual activity consenting between adults. I'm not aware of anybody who's done that, local, state, or federal. That does not exist in the United States. So this is a complete straw man fallacy. That is a different question as to whether you ought to receive state benefits for your sexual predilections, which seems like should have something to do with, having kids and generating family units that are the building blocks of a functional society. That's a completely separate question. But Tim Walz's entire shtick is mind your own damn business. This dude set up a snitch line in Minnesota, a snitch line for those who weren't properly abiding by COVID rules.
We also protected reproductive freedom because in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
But by the way, look how that has extended from we don't care who you have sex with to you should be allowed to kill your baby. And this is one of the great lies in American judicial history was the attempt to swivel abortion into a quote-unquote right to privacy. And nothing to do with privacy. That's either an independent human in there or it ain't. That is either another human being in there or it's not. No one cares about your right to remove your spleen. No one. Okay, so it's a lie, but it's okay. That's the lie that they like to tell. And then Tim Walz says Republicans don't want you to be free, which is weird because the kind of freedom that they experience in Minnesota is apparently free vasectomies and abortions. Also, your business might be burned down tomorrow and somebody might snitch on you on COVID and your kid might be taken away if you refuse to trust them. That's freedom, gang.
When Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. Corporations, free to pollute your air and water. and banks free to take advantage of customers. But when we Democrats talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make a better life for yourself and the people that you love.
That is such a lie. That is such a lie. The freedom to make a better life for yourself? No, they mean the freedom to take your hand and shove it in your neighbor's pocket, take his money, and then do what you want with it. And then if you fail, shove your hand deeper into your neighbor's pocket and do more of it. They mean the freedom to regulate every aspect of your life from the federal government level on down. The freedom for government to destroy your community. It's such Orwellian trash. It truly is. Now, Walz did tell on himself at one point. He was going after J.D. Vance, who, of course, is his vice presidential counterpart on the other side of the aisle. And he was trying to rip J.D. Vance for being an elitist. Now, Democrats have a very weird relationship with elitism, educationally particularly. Bill Clinton went to Yale Law. Barack Obama went to Harvard Law School. Joe Biden's children went to top-level universities. Tim Walz, he rips on J.D. Vance for having escaped poverty and gone to Yale Law. This apparently is a bad thing now. Here's Tim Walz trying to brag on this one.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
I mean, weird flex. Weird flex. See, I would think you would brag if you had kids in your high school class who did go to Yale because you were such a good teacher. I think that really, if he wants to talk about, elitism, what he really should say, I had 24 kids in my high school class. All 24 of them got addicted to Oxy. They're all now dead. That's what a great teacher. What is he even trying to say there? That J.D. Vance is bad because he went to Yale Law School? Pathetic. Okay, well, Walz closed. Again, the entire shtick here is that he was never governor of Minnesota. We're never allowed to talk about what he did as governor. Kamala was never vice president of the United States or senator from California. Bill Clinton was never president. Barack Obama was never president. None of these people ever held power. It turns out that they are basically political neophytes. But the thing you're supposed to recognize about Tim Walz is that he is a dad and a husband, and he once coached high school football, which is weird because I'm not trying to hire him as offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm wondering whether he should be the vice president of the United States. But here's where we're going to get into the crappy pep talk where Democrats pretend that they watch football. Oh, goodness. Other than when Taylor Swift's boyfriend is playing. Here's Tim Walz.
You might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks.
Yay,
so
pep
let
talks.
me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter.
Coach Walz.
We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time.
Oh my God. I can't. These people are so fraudulent. They're such phonies. Is it okay? I want to know the field position. I want to know why your quarterback seems to have suffered multiple concussions since she can't say a sentence. I want to know who the actual offensive coordinator is because she clearly ain't calling her own plays. I'd like to know why we are all expected to be the offensive lineman for a presidential candidate. Why is that? Well, are we all her servants? How does this work precisely? Why isn't she our servant? She's the public servant, correct? Coach Walz. Coach Walz. He hasn't coached football for 20 years. What are you talking about, Coach Walz? I swear, all these Democrats, it's like their resume ended when they were 18 years old. And then we're supposed to ignore what they did. And of course, that's the whole game. You are supposed to ignore what they did. You're supposed to ignore everything about them. You're not supposed to pay attention to their policies, the things they actually want to do. You're supposed to instead just think of nice Coach Walz from the high school. You're supposed to think of Kamala Harris in the kitchen, smothering up a turkey with salt and pepper. Don't be an idiot. Vote based on who is going to exercise power and what they're going to do with that power. Because I promise you, Coach Walz is not going to be your high school football coach, but he is going to be shaping your China policy. Kamala Harris is not going to be your mamala. And if you're seeking a mamala, honestly, get therapy. Seek help now. She's going to be the person who's running the American economy into the ground and setting the world on fire, just like her boss, Joe Biden, who's out moldering somewhere in the California sun. All right, coming up, we'll get to the other side of the aisle where Donald Trump has been campaigning and doing some interesting things, actually. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey. If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you in this field. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
white
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around? There's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
Say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
I just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.